One of the details in our Defender electric conversions is what we do with all the 12 volt system. So Defenders have always struggled with where to put the 12 volt battery. Once upon a time, the engines were smaller and they kept the batteries up the front, and then they started moving them to under the seat, and you were really restricted, and it was useful in some ways, but it was also awkward, and Land Rovers over the years were full of kind of compromises, I guess, or fitting stuff where the only place that it could rather than the place that it was smart. But it leaves us too with a challenge, because you do have this quite small engine bay. We're putting 55 kilowatt hours of battery here. We'll be putting another 55 kilowatt hours of battery where the seat box was, taking up all of that space. So where do we put the 12 volt battery and the other sort of systems like that? What we're doing, and you might have thought, well, what are you doing with that fuel tank space? So the fuel tanks in these were up in the back here in these later Land Rovers. You had about 75 litres. It was one of the complaints that they had a small fuel tank compared to, say, Land Cruisers at the time. But it is a very, very useful space. And so what we're creating is what we call the rear universal mounting plate, or rump for short, that allows us to have a bolt-in system and a grid bolt-on platform to install the 12 volt battery, the fusing, aircon compressor, a few other systems that makes them easily accessible by putting them back here. Everything we put in is fully sealed and is able to be immersed. So if you were backing in, say, a boat and that went underwater, that would still be fine. And then we put a bash guard on, just like the old fuel tank bash guard was before. So that's still higher, I guess, off the ground than the fuel tank was, protected by the chassis, but we like to put a sort of bash and mud guard on everything. But it gives us a really flexible space. The big consideration for us is that you don't have to remove one part to access another part wherever possible. And so while you might have to remove the guard, you're able to access and easily work on the entire 12 volt sort of brains and power system of the vehicle without needing to get into anything else.